The scarlet beetle, engulfed in flames, let out a tragic howl. Its proud carapace couldn't prevent the fire from slowly consuming its life. Although the bullets injected with the energy equivalent to 2 frost arrows couldn't kill it immediately, they did render it incapable of further attacks, leaving it to suffer painfully in the flames, awaiting death. The last scarlet beetle, undaunted, crossed over its fallen companions. With one giant pincer, it struck fiercely, sending Ch.18 flying through the air, crashing heavily to the ground. At that moment, Ch.18 felt his entire body scatter, unable to move. His pistol lay far out of reach. The blood-red shadow of the scarlet beetle enlarged in his pupils, and he almost touched the breath of death. In the beetle's eyes, there was cruelty, death, and endless darkness, with even a hint of mockery. Unable to move, Ch.18 was easily picked up by the beetle's pincer. He felt the 6-armor talisman on the brink of shattering. A slight pressure from the beetle's pincer could split him in two like the corpses he had seen. The scarlet beetle chirped triumphantly, opening its sticky, filthy mouth. A long, sharp, straw-like appendage emerged, aiming for Ch.18's head to devour his brain. Ch.18 struggled desperately but couldn't break free from the iron-like pincers. His crossbow and pistol were gone. But he still had his sword, a sharp long sword. It was his only hope. Quickly, his left hand grasped the sword hilt. He slightly infused it with vital energy, instantly unsheathing it. With less than 1/6 of his vital energy remaining, he recklessly poured all his energy into the sword in a life-or-death moment. Reversing his grip on the hilt, he leaned back forcefully, raised the sword, and stabbed it towards the filthy mouth and sharp appendage. The entire blade plunged into the beetle's sticky mouth, causing burning pain as the foul liquid splashed on Ch.18's face. The 6-armor talisman couldn't hold out much longer. A desperate counterattack, a kill-or-die strike. The scarlet beetle, in excruciating pain, swung its pincers wildly, shrieking madly as it threw Ch.18's body away. It twisted its robust body and gradually died amidst its violent convulsions. Coughing up blood, Ch.18 felt the void from exhausting his vital energy, rendering him weak and unable to move. The severe pain in his flesh made him immobile. He didn't even have the strength to take out the absorption talisman. Silently reciting the laws, he struggled to restore his vital energy, aware that the frozen scarlet beetle might break free at any moment. He was now too weak to fight. It was a race against time, a contest of recovery speed between him and the beetle. The burning scarlet beetle was nearly dead. Under the fiery glow, Ch.18 tensely watched the one encased in ice, exhaling cold steam. 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds, 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, half an hour passed. The distant, chaotic gunfire, the sporadic main cannon blasts, and the scarlet beetle's chirps reminded every corner of Shen City that this was no longer the lavish international metropolis but a terrifying city. Almost every bone in his body had moved, initially paralyzed but gradually regaining strength as his vital energy slowly and methodically restored. When the scarce vital energy finally flowed through his body, surpassing the excruciating pain, Ch.18 groaned softly. His bones seemed to return to their original places, allowing him to finally get up and sit against a wall. Looking up, the shattered streets, the eerie tall buildings, and the dark sky resembled a 1,000-year-old devouring ruin. His sword was vertically embedded in the third scarlet beetle's mouth, the beetle dying with an unwilling gaze towards the sky. The leaping flames were unusually bewitching. The ice-encased beetle sculpture cracked with a clear crack in the quiet dark night, sounding particularly sharp and nerve-wracking. The beetle was about to break free. Ch.18 leapt up like a cheetah, taking 3 strides, past the third scarlet beetle, smoothly drew his sword, took 3 more steps, and jumped, raising his sword. The just-freed beetle head fell, green liquid splattering under the sword. It's over, really over. Ch.18 collapsed to the ground, looking at the 3 scarlet beetles. The second one burned to death by fire, the third one killed by a sword, and the first one finally beheaded. He had actually fought 3 scarlet beetles at once. However, Ch.18 didn't feel any excitement. It was almost at the cost of his life. If it happened again, he couldn't guarantee survival. For the first time, he desperately desired the fusion stage, as only in that stage could he practice powerful close combat techniques. Exhausted, Chu Yunsheng wanted to sit and recover more, but chaotic footsteps approached from the street. It seems several people were coming, probably attracted by the fire and the sounds of battle. Regardless, the hard-fought gains couldn't be abandoned. Chu Yunsheng forced himself up, quickly collecting the 3 scarlet beetle corpses into his storage talisman, retrieved his pistol and crossbow, ignoring the ice and sticky fluids, as there was something more important: the food in the Hualien supermarket. By now, even a fool knew the importance of food. With many plants dying in the dark world, no one knew the future, and existing food was the only guarantee for survival. No one would consider such a guarantee excessive, especially someone like Chu Yunsheng with a convenient storage talisman, naturally wanting as much as possible. Using the remaining firelight, Chu Yunsheng rapidly collected the few items on the shelves with the storage talisman, whether useful or not. Halfway through, a crowd rushed in, including Zhang Han. Chu Yunsheng signaled him to grab things quickly. Chu Yunsheng then ran to an unnoticed counter and emptied it of stored cigarettes and alcohol. With a crossbow on his back, Chu Yunsheng lit a cigarette and walked out the main door, ignoring the frenzy behind him. Looking at the dark sky, he suddenly felt it was good to be alive. The supermarket stock was already low, and with Chu Yunsheng taking half, the crowd soon cleaned it out, even raiding the warehouse, leaving nothing behind, not even a sanitary pad. When Zhang Han came out, his face was bruised, clearly from fighting over supplies. He silently watched Chu Yunsheng's back, unable to understand this man who had killed multiple scarlet beetles but left none behind. Moreover, besides the crossbow, there was no sign Chu Yunsheng had taken any food. Why? But Zhang Han didn't dare ask. He sensed this man was anxious and dangerous. "Let's go back, I need to rest," Chu Yunsheng said softly, dropping his cigarette. He needed a safe place to regain his strength. He had suspected Zhang Han of providing false information, leading him into the scarlet beetle trap. But on second thought, it wouldn't benefit Zhang Han, who would lose Chu Yunsheng's protection. Even if Zhang Han coveted the crossbow, if Chu Yunsheng died, they couldn't retrieve it from the beetle's attack range, making Zhang Han's deceit unlikely. Moreover, even with his fusion stage and night vision device, Chu Yunsheng had been deceived by the cunning scarlet beetles. How could Zhang Han, with nothing, fare any better? Back in the shelter with the remaining 4 people, Chu Yunsheng found a quiet room, locked it, and immediately entered a meditative state. Unexpectedly, this desperate action led him to discover progress in his vital energy. Chapter 15. Battle Armor. After recovering some vital energy, Chu Yunsheng took out the scarlet beetle corpses that had yet to be absorbed and used the absorption talisman to completely drain their vital energy. At this moment, the absorption talisman already had 5 flame patterns. Chu Yunsheng didn't have time to hunt another beetle to fill the talisman completely. The dark Shen city was filled with danger at every corner. Without hesitation, he chose to absorb the vital energy from the absorption talisman into his body. After filling up, he was amazed to find that his vital energy had significantly increased. The current amount was enough to freeze 7 scarlet beetles. Using the energy required to freeze 1 scarlet beetle as a unit, his vital energy had clearly increased by 1 unit. Similarly, the absorption talisman lost not just 3 flame patterns but 3.5. Previously, a full recharge would consume 3 flame patterns. The current situation indicated that his vital energy had indeed increased. Chu Yunsheng calculated that when he first completed his cultivation, his vital energy thickness was about 5 to 6 units. Now, after about 8 to 9 cycles of recharging, it seemed that every 9 cycles could increase his vital energy by 1 unit. With a total of 81 cycles of cultivation, he could increase his vital energy by 9 units, meaning that at the peak of the primary stage, he would be able to freeze 15 scarlet beetles. When he breaks through to the fusion stage and cultivates close combat techniques, even facing large swarms of insects, he should be able to retreat unscathed. Chu Yunsheng smiled confidently. After filling up with vital energy, he quickly made a new absorption talisman, consuming 6 units of vital energy. As expected, he still had 1 unit of vital energy left, which felt incredibly good. The old absorption talisman could no longer absorb vital energy. He converted the remaining 1.5 flame patterns into his vital energy, raising it to 4 units. Initially, he wanted to keep the old absorption talisman for emergencies. However, considering the constant dangers in Shen City and the ever-present scarlet beetles, he abandoned the idea of staying in the room and training cautiously for an extended period. The 6 armor talisman could no longer be used. He spent 2 units of vital energy to create a new 6 armor talisman. The talismans on his crossbow and pistol were about half consumed but could still be used for a while. This left him with only 2 units of vital energy, which would take him nearly 7 days to recover. During this time, the food Zhang Han brought back was completely consumed by the 5 of them. Chu Yunsheng shared some of the biscuits and miscellaneous drinks he took from the supermarket with them. To Chu Yunsheng's surprise, the injuries on Zhang Han's face were not from fighting over food but for a pack of sanitary pads. The reason was that the girl, Sun Fei, had her menstrual period. This guy is indeed a love-struck fool. Chu Yunsheng sighed in admiration. Reflecting on the recent battle, Chu Yunsheng realized that his lack of close combat skills was his biggest weakness. However, there was no way around it. Unless he had been a self-awakened individual who could possibly acquire close combat skills upon awakening, he would have to wait until he reached the fusion stage to practice the powerful sword techniques described in the ancient book. The defense of the 6 armor talisman was also a concern. While it could handle the attack of a single insect, when faced with the combined attack of more than 2 insects, its defense would be significantly weakened. Unless he had the second-order 6 armor talisman, but with half of the characters in its creation method incomprehensible to him, it was impossible to successfully create it even if he was willing to spend 6 units of vital energy. What should he do? Looking at the neatly arranged 6 scarlet beetle corpses in the room, 1 shot in his room, 1 killed while rescuing Zhang Han, and the remaining 4 slain in the last battle, a thought struck him. The carapace of the scarlet beetle was so tough. Why not use it to make a set of battle armor? The ancient book mentioned a type of battle armor talisman at the second order, requiring the creation of a complete 4-dimensional diagram of the armor. The talisman would then absorb the materials into the diagram. Although Chu Yunsheng understood the method of making this talisman, the materials listed in the book included beast bones, many of which he had never heard of, so he didn't take it seriously. Now, he could use the scarlet beetle carapaces to experiment. However, not right now. The base materials required for the battle armor were too substantial, a pure essence refinement. The 6 scarlet beetle carapaces were far from enough. If he waited until his vital energy increased by 2 more units, he could store more carapaces and accumulate more absorption talismans to compensate for the significant vital energy consumption during the creation. 2 units meant 18 cycles of recharging, requiring at least 54 scarlet beetles to be killed. Although the number was large, Chu Yunsheng was confident. As long as he didn't encounter the same situation as before, he could manage. Since the carapaces had their use, Chu Yunsheng immediately thought other parts of the beetles should also be useful. For example, the extremely sharp legs could be used to make crossbow bolts, greatly increasing their power. The corrosive liquid inside could be collected using the beetle's stomach pouch and refined with a talisman into a stronger corrosive poison. Chu Yunsheng quickly disassembled one of the scarlet beetle corpses. With the protection of the 6 armor talisman, he wasn't worried about the corrosive liquid's toxicity. The carapace could be used for battle armor, the pincers and limbs for arrowheads, and the corrosive saliva refined into more potent poison. This left a pile of flesh, seemingly useless. However, Chu Yunsheng believed the beetle's muscles, with their strong elasticity and explosive power, must have some use. He decided to keep them in the storage talisman for future use. Of course, Chu Yunsheng wouldn't dare to eat the beetle meat. Who knew if it contained toxic mutations? After disassembling the corpses, Chu Yunsheng felt he had a new goal. To survive in this terrifying city, he had to continuously grow and strengthen himself. He might not have the innate talent for self-awakening, but his ancestors left him an ancient book. With this book, he wouldn't lose to those with innate talents. If the fusion stage was his mid-term goal, filled with challenges, the incremental increase in vital energy and the possibility of making battle armor were his immediate goals, which he had to focus on. Standing on the rooftop, Ch.18 looked up at the endless dark sky. 3 days ago, he had eliminated 2 scarlet beetles on the small bridge to the west, delivering John Han and his group to the military camp on the other side. Whether they could receive protection from the military was no longer his concern. Food had become the new crisis in this terrifying city. Hungry people frequently appeared on the streets. For the right to search a convenience store like Howda, 2 groups could fight to the death, the brutality no less than the damage caused by the scarlet beetles. A fierce battle was taking place on the street below Ch.18. One side had a police pistol, the other had nothing but more people. The intense fight was over a former rice shop. Ch.18 even saw an old man, fearlessly guarding the door with at least 3 steel knives stuck in him. As the unarmed side, relying on their numbers, was about to break through the door, a majestic scarlet beetle suddenly appeared on the street. Without hesitation, everyone chose to flee instantly. Facing a scarlet beetle with just a pistol was suicide. How could human speed compare to that of the insects? With one leap, the scarlet beetle was in the crowd. To it, these feeble humans were just helpless prey. However, it didn't know the concept of a mantis stalks the cicada, unaware of the oriole behind. A gray shadow fell from the sky, accompanied by a chilling arrow aura. Chapter 16. The bloody case caused by half a pot of beef. Human skirmishes often attracted 1 or 2 scarlet beetles. He couldn't stop people from fighting over food, nor could he stop the scarlet beetles from being drawn to the commotion. All he could do was quickly eliminate these loathsome insects. Holding onto the rope tied to the rooftop, Ch.18 swiftly swung over the heads of the crowd. A frost arrow shot out, effortlessly piercing through the scarlet beetle's carapace, freezing it along with the arrow. As he swung over the scarlet beetle, he reached out and grabbed the frozen arrow. With a burst of vital energy, both he and the beetle soared into the air, landing on the opposite building's rooftop. The cries and screams of the crowd abruptly stopped. All the flashlight beams converged on Ch.18's back. What remained for the crowd was a solitary, gray silhouette with the mysterious crossbow slung over his shoulder. No one knew who he was. No one knew where he came from. He seemed mysterious and powerful, yet he never descended to the mortal world. Coming alone, leaving alone. Taking with him only the dying scarlet beetle. Thus, rumors about him began to spread in the eastern district of Shen City. More and more experts appeared in this terrifying city, discussed by those who encountered them. Ch.18 was occasionally mentioned, but most of his time was spent silently hunting scarlet beetles in deserted streets and alleys. Ch.18 also heard some of these rumors. The most prominent figures were 2. One was a military man, nicknamed Iron Beast, rumored to kill a scarlet beetle with a single punch. Ch.18 wondered how many punches this person could throw in one breath. The other was said to be a government security advisor, Ice King. This person's ability was somewhat similar to Ch.18's frost arrow, but he could freeze multiple scarlet beetles simultaneously over a large area. Standing on the rooftop of a 3-story building, Ch.18 thought, if I hunt enough scarlet beetles, I can create the battle armor talisman. With the armor, I won't be any weaker than these people. Recently, the more scarlet beetles Ch.18 killed, the more seemed to appear. He had no idea where they came from. However, finding lone ones was increasingly difficult, much to his frustration. Once he killed 54, he wouldn't have to sneak around like this anymore. Looking at the pig brains he used as bait on the street below, Ch.18 sighed. It didn't seem to be working. He had been lurking here for a long time, and his body was starting to stiffen. He overheard passers-by saying that the temperature had stopped dropping, but it still felt unusually cold. He should get something to eat. Ch.18 touched his somewhat cold stomach. These days, he had been eating biscuits and bread. Today, he decided to indulge in something hot. This 3-story building used to be a luxurious restaurant. Ch.18 quickly found the kitchen on the first floor. The utensils were still there, though everything edible had likely been looted by others. But that didn't matter. Ch.18 had his own supplies. He lit an alcohol stove and, with his current resources, could at most make a hot pot meal. Beef, cabbage, vermicelli, and even some tofu chunks were mixed together, soon filling the air with a delicious aroma. This was probably the first proper meal Ch.18 had had in a while. Although he had plenty of stored food, he hadn't had the peace of mind to cook a proper meal, nor was he good at it. As the hot cabbage and beef entered his stomach, his whole belly felt warm. He even shivered comfortably, not having tasted such hot food in a long time. Ordinary food had become a luxury at this time. Someone's coming in? Ch.18 swallowed a piece of beef, quickly grabbing his crossbow. Half a pot of food was still in the pot, and he wasn't ready to leave yet. The first to appear were a group of students in school uniforms, staring fixedly at his half-pot of beef. Next came a group of men and women with various weapons, also staring at the half-pot of beef. The luxurious kitchen became crowded with so many people. Holding his crossbow, Ch.18 hesitated for a moment, then pointed to the half-pot of beef and said something even he found awkward, "It's mine." A burly man with a long, fresh red scar on his face, bald and looking fierce, held a machete that made people shudder. He knocked on the stove and said casually, "Not anymore." "Oh?" Ch.18 sneered. He was soft-hearted but wouldn't take hard threats. If someone lowered themselves and asked nicely, he might have shared. After all, he had plenty of food and giving a little wouldn't hurt. But if they tried to force him, his stubbornness would flare up. Besides, he was no longer the weak office worker he once was. Raising an eyebrow, he said, "You can try." The burly man laughed, pointing his machete at his group. "Kid, don't act tough. You have one crossbow. After one shot, you're done. We have so many people, you won't get away." Ch.18 replied calmly, "Really? Who said I need to shoot them? I only need to kill you." The burly man snorted angrily, making a gesture, "You've got guts. Sister 4, show this kid." Ch.18 expected some trick but didn't anticipate the other side would directly fire a shot. He had been actively hunting scarlet beetles and rarely got involved in human disputes over food. He subconsciously still saw human behavior through a civilized lens, not expecting a sudden outbreak of violence over a disagreement. If Diao Dingguo were here, he would have cursed the burly man for being a fool, knowing Ch.18's strength. Unfortunately, he wasn't here. No one knew who this young man was, only that someone who could cook a pot of beef soup must have a lot of food. Killing him would give them all his supplies. The bullet clinked to the ground, and the room fell eerily silent. Sister 4 had never seen anyone block her bullets. Since her awakening, no one could resist her. Ch.18 stood there, unmoving, blocking her bullet effortlessly. She was slightly surprised but not scared. To her, Ch.18 was just another awakened person with some defensive abilities, nothing she hadn't seen before. One of them had even died by her gun. Her first bullet had no energy. It was reasonable for an awakened person to block it. Sister 4 sneered. "Dodging the first shot? Let's see the second one." She injected her maximum fire energy and fired again. Ch.18, realizing the situation after the first shot, was furious. Thinking, "Just for half a pot of beef, these bastards want to kill me? My life isn't worth half a pot of beef." He didn't care about bullets. The 6 armor talisman completely ignored non-vital energy attacks. Ch.18 immediately infused his crossbow with vital energy. Since they wanted to kill him without a word, he wouldn't show mercy. A lion uses all its strength even against a rabbit. The frost arrow shot out, radiating chilling energy. The bald man had prepared to defend, intending to take the arrow and give Sister 4 time to shoot. But he was wrong, terribly wrong, because he picked the wrong opponent. Some mistakes leave no room for correction. As Ch.18's frost arrow shot out, Sister 4's fire energy bullet hit him. A small kitchen witnessed a scene of fire and ice. The bald man instantly froze into an ice sculpture. If he wasn't an awakened, Ch.18 thought he would be dead by now. The chill of the frost arrow wasn't something a normal human could withstand. Sister 4's fire energy bullet accurately hit Ch.18's heart, but it didn't pierce through and burn everything as she expected. It merely sparked a small flame, slightly distorting the space in front of Ch.18 before extinguishing. Impossible. Absolutely impossible. How could this happen? Sister 4 couldn't accept it. Her bullet could penetrate a scarlet beetle's body, yet it couldn't breach this man's defense? His clothes weren't even burned. Chapter 17. Who rules whom? Big Brother. A group of people looked at the frozen bald man in panic. Do you want to know what real fire is? Ch.18 said maliciously. He would never let off those self-righteous idiots who pointed guns at him. The six-armored talisman could swiftly mobilize his entire body's vital energy to defend against such singular point attacks. With his current ample vital energy, Sister 4's bullet hardly caused any damage. Ch.18 released his crossbow, letting it hang from his shoulder, and quietly pulled out his pistol, pointing it at the still stunned Sister 4. Sister 4, run! A masked man grabbed her hand and rushed towards the door. Think you can run after failing to win? Ch.18 thought to himself, you need to outrun bullets first. Bang! Bang! 2 shots fired in quick succession. The bullets, imbued with Ch.18's pure fire energy, whistled through the air and struck Sister 4's back. Ah! A piercing scream erupted. Sister 4 was instantly engulfed in vital fire. She poured all her energy into resisting but could still feel the unstoppable flames ravaging her body. The 2 bullets Ch.18 fired were different from his previous shots. Each bullet was infused with a full unit of vital energy. A single unit of a frost arrow could instantly freeze a powerful scarlet beetle. 2 units could shatter a scarlet beetle into pieces. Thus, 2 bullets with 2 units of fire energy were far beyond what someone like Sister 4, who had recently awakened, could withstand. Even with similar energy attributes, she couldn't resist such an attack. The vital fire consumed Sister 4's entire body. Her energy resistance collapsed, and her screams were heart-wrenching. The entire kitchen filled with the smell of burning human flesh. Ch.18 hadn't expected it to be so gruesome, and he stood there stunned. He never considered the feelings of insects when killing them, but facing a human, even an enemy intent on killing him, such a painful death was shocking. However, Ch.18 didn't regret it. This might be the nature of the apocalypse. If he didn't have some ability, he would probably be the one lying on the ground, burning alive. This woman had shot at him with a fire energy bullet without hesitation. This was karma. Ch.18 thought. If he were the one on the ground, these people wouldn't show any mercy. They had intended to kill him. Those who disregard others' lives don't deserve sympathy. Such an end was her just punishment. The vital fire spread from Sister 4's hand to the masked man's arm. While Ch.18 was momentarily distracted, the masked man decisively chopped off his arm and fled. His companions, too, didn't care about Big Brother or Sister 4 anymore. Facing an enemy as dangerous as a scarlet beetle, running was the best option, and they scattered like frightened birds, leaving none behind. Ch.18 didn't intend to pursue them. He wasn't a bloodthirsty demon, and he had already killed 2. More importantly, he had just consumed 3 units of vital energy. With only 2 units left in his body, it was crucial to retain some strength in this terrifying city of Shen City, where unforeseen dangers lurked everywhere. Ch.18 put away his pistol and noticed a row of students and a young woman, likely their teacher, across from him. He didn't have the energy to deal with them. Shen City was filled with homeless and hungry people. Looking at the charred remains of Sister 4, Ch.18 lost his appetite but knew he couldn't waste the beef. In these dark times, food was invaluable. He found some containers to pack the food into his storage talisman, where it wouldn't spoil, for later enjoyment. Sir, excuse me. The young teacher couldn't hold back any longer as she saw Ch.18 packing to leave. She and her students had come to this restaurant hoping for a stroke of luck. Upon entering the lobby, they smelled a familiar aroma, and one sharp-nosed student even declared it was beef. So they came in without hesitation, followed by another group of rough-looking people. She recognized the bald man, a local tyrant who gathered a gang and acted recklessly. In this lawless dark world, these thugs were rampant and vicious. As a child, she heard stories from her grandmother about the Japanese invaders, another group of beasts. Girls would smear soot on their faces to look as ugly as possible to avoid being noticed by the invaders. Now, she and her students had to do the same to guard against these lawless thugs. She thought the man eating the beef would surely die. She had never seen anyone survive an encounter with the bald man. A girl who resisted his assault had her entire family nailed to the entrance of their community, a nightmare that still haunted her. But the outcome defied all her expectations. This young man single-handedly killed two of the gang's main fighters, the bald man and Sister 4. She was at a loss for words to describe her shock. She knew about the existence of superhumans. Her students often asked why, but she couldn't explain. However, in this neighborhood, she had never heard of this man. Who was he? But curiosity was secondary. The crucial point was that this man was about to take away the beef hot pot. She and her students hadn't eaten in over 2 days. So she thickened her skin and spoke up. Even a little food would be helpful. Xiao Shui had been running a fever for 3 days, and without any food, her favorite student might not survive. Chu Yunsheng couldn't know her chaotic thoughts. In his experience, anyone speaking up in such situations was usually asking for food. His usual strategy was not to offer food unless asked. He wasn't a philanthropist, knowing how precious food was. If asked, he would consider the circumstances. He wasn't naive. Just like now, a dozen children with over 20 pairs of pleading eyes looked at him and his pot of beef. His hands, busy packing, inexplicably paused. In the end, he softened, sighed, and said, "You want this pot of beef, right? Take it and eat." Chu Yunsheng placed the entire pot in front of them, picked up the alcohol stove, and walked away. He feared that if he softened again, it would be too much. Lighting a cigarette, Chu Yunsheng sat on a sofa in the lobby, his thoughts in turmoil. The recent events forced him to realize that in the dark times, human rules had changed. Without a state apparatus or social morals, many people acted without restraint, relying solely on strength. If you were ruthless and strong, you could oppress others, commit any evil, even take lives, with no police to arrest you or courts to judge you. Everything had fallen into chaotic lawlessness. It was time to change his mindset. Without the 6 armor talisman, he might have been dead by now. Only those with absolute power could establish new rules in the dark times. Chu Yunsheng flicked his cigarette butt away and thought, to avoid being ruled by others, I must grow stronger and set the rules myself. Chapter 18. Courage and Path. Chu Yunsheng counted the scarlet beetle corpses in his storage talisman. Including the first 6, there were 38. He still needed 22 more to reach his goal of 60. Pig brains had once been Chu Yunsheng's lifeline. Lone scarlet beetles were rare, and encountering 2 together made him feel fortunate. Of course, no one dared to confront swarms of beetles, not even the military's armored convoys. Beetles enjoyed eating brains, whether human or animal. In their eyes, any creature's brain was a delicacy. Chu Yunsheng had successfully lured at least 10 scarlet beetles using pig brains. But recently, this method had lost its effectiveness. Last time, hungry people almost snatched the pig's head. That was prime pig head meat. Chu Yunsheng got smarter, mixing the pig brains with fresh blood and placing them next to human corpses. No one dared touch the pig brains anymore. He guessed the reason was the brains weren't fresh enough. Fewer and fewer scarlet beetles were taking the bait, and now, none came at all. As he pondered how to attract lone beetles, the female teacher and her students walked into the lobby. They had finished eating. Half a pot wasn't much, especially with so many of them. The group hesitantly approached him, causing Chu Yunsheng to frown. It was clear they had another request. He didn't mind helping these children, but he was struggling to survive himself and couldn't play the hero. He regretted not leaving earlier. The female teacher expressed her gratitude, "Thank you for your help. I'm a teacher from Shen City's 21st Secondary School. My name is Chu Yunsheng." Quickly interrupted. Okay, I don't want to know. I think you should find shelter with the military or government. You're all students, the military should help." His bluntness made the teacher a bit embarrassed, but she persisted. "We tried, but there were too many people. They couldn't take us in. Sir, I'm not asking for more food. One of my students has had a high fever for 3 days. Without medicine, she won't make it." Chu Yunsheng was taken aback. He sympathized but didn't have the medicine. Prescription drugs were hard to get even in the sunlight era. He had some common medicines, but nothing for such severe illness. He apologetically said, "Sorry, I don't have that kind of medicine." The teacher, still hopeful, pleaded, "There's a community hospital nearby. We went there, but it's infested with beetles. Could you please help us?" "Sorry." Chu Yunsheng refused after considering it. He had been to that hospital, 3 scarlet beetles were outside, and who knew how many were inside? It was too dangerous. While he felt sorry for the girl, he wasn't willing to risk his life. The atmosphere grew awkward. Ch.18 felt it was his right to refuse. Risking his life for a stranger wasn't wise. He stood to leave. But then, there was a thud behind him. The teacher had knelt down. He was shocked. Then, thud, thud, thud. All the students knelt down. Ch.18 was shaken to his core. It wasn't compassion but shock and an indescribable emotion. In the sunlight era, he had often seen collective kneeling on TV and the internet, people begging for justice, protesting demolitions, or seeking unpaid wages. He had cursed the cold-blooded, heartless authorities but never imagined he'd find himself on the other side of such a scene. He opened his mouth but couldn't say anything. "Please, uncle. Xiao Shui is dying." A girl cried. "Uncle. Please." The chorus of pleas was heart-wrenching. Ch.18 was torn. One side said, "Forget it, you don't have the ability. Don't pretend to be a hero. It's better to focus on your cultivation." The other side said, "Come on, brother. Life is about passion and honor. Fight, brother. Strength is important, but without the courage to face blood, you'll always be weak in spirit." Much later, when Ch.18 looked back, he realized this moment of collective kneeling had silently advanced his mindset. A true master doesn't just have earth-shattering power. More importantly, they dare to challenge, face blood, push limits, and never retreat. Ch.18 suddenly realized he had long been trapped in a cycle of avoiding danger, seeking safety. This had allowed him to survive so far. But could he continue like this? Increasing scarlet beetles made it harder to find lone ones. Continuing to avoid danger would slow his cultivation, while the beetles multiplied. He might not reach the fusion stage before being eaten. The thought brought a cold sweat. Even in the sunlight era, success without risk was rare, let alone in this perilous dark age. The beetles' numbers were rapidly growing, and awakened individuals were getting stronger. Yet his progress was slow due to fear of facing 3 scarlet beetles. Continuing like this, he'd be crushed by time and left behind. Wasting an ancient, priceless book. Damn it. Ch.18 exhaled deeply. These people's actions had unintentionally transformed his thinking. From a timid hunter, he had become a battle-hungry warrior. Of course, he couldn't be blindly reckless. Strength was still crucial. Courage didn't mean recklessness. If the power gap was too great, no amount of bravery would help. With his current vital energy, facing 3 scarlet beetles was possible. With detailed planning, he believed his success rate was over 80%. The key was to remain hidden, strike swiftly and accurately with a frost arrow to freeze one. Then, he'd face the wrath of 2 beetles. If lucky, he could disable one with his pistol during their charge. The last one could be managed with his pistol or crossbow, even if grabbed by the pincers. Currently, he couldn't cut through a beetle's double-layered defense with his sword. Breaking the defense shield was possible, but stabbing through the unprotected mouth was a rare stroke of luck, unlikely to be repeated. Thus, the critical points were freezing one beetle first and keeping his pistol and crossbow. Ensuring these 2 points gave him a 70% chance of victory. Disabling one beetle during their charge increased this to 90%. As long as no new beetles appeared, he could win. With the plan clear, he felt less worried. A few more details needed refinement, but he was ready. When Ch.18 snapped out of his thoughts, the group was still kneeling. Feeling a bit embarrassed, he realized they had objectively influenced his future cultivation strategy. Since he decided to embrace the challenge, helping them was a win-win. Additionally, medicines would be crucial in the Dark Age, second only to food. Stockpiling some was necessary.